Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I want to give you two of my favorite highlights from Karp's World Government Summit interview. This is very good. I wanted to cut it to the highlights because I feel like in some of the interviews he keeps saying the same thing. So two very interesting things that I've never heard him say before. One of them is how much money the people who are involved in the AI are going to make, and I want to comment on it. And then the next one is about governments. It's going to be a bit philosophical. It's going to be awesome if you're an Alex Karp fan, so please make sure that you're subscribed, and I'll keep the commentary to a minimum. Here we go.
Well, there are implications, of course, for nations that don't have access to the same level of technology. How can we strike a balance in embracing the innovation of artificial intelligence and establishing regulations that ensure privacy, security, ethical considerations, and equity at the end of the day? Or are you saying that it doesn't matter?
I'm interested in people that are aligned with America, and people who run just and wonderful societies win. So there's the balance side of it. That's what we're taught to believe. I'm not interested in balance. I'm interested in the winners winning. Then there's the equity side of it. It's like, how do you deal with it in America? The obvious reality that while GDP will grow, the people who are in this business are going to be 10, 100 times wealthier. And that.
So I just had to stop it right here. So he said that the people who are in this business are going to be 10 to 100 times richer. So he is an extremely good salesperson, even though he says that he's not a good salesperson. And I've never heard him speak about this concept before. One of them is that, he's speaking with someone who wants equity and is sort of like a socialist, kind of. And even though Alex Karp is supposed to be a socialist, he's like, I don't give an F about balance. I want winners. And the obvious reality is that the people who deal with this are going to, have a very increased GDP, but it's going to concentrate for those people. So I'm not sure that he means it's the companies that use AI, in which case this is an insanely good sales point to the customers to buy it. It's like, look, the people who use our product, they're going to massively expand their production and they're going to make massive profit. By the way, just saw what a bad point to stop the video at. Okay, so the companies that use it, they're going to massively increase the production and the others will be left in the dust. So you either take our product or your competitors are going to take the product, which is a really good sales point, to be honest. Or it's going to be, like the Palantirians, the people who own the company, who is going to be 10 to 100 times richer. I think it's probably both. So it's insanely good for us shareholders, and it's instantly good for the customers. And I get where he's coming from. So it would be very nice to be sitting around a campfire and sing Kumbaya and everybody is equal. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that in this universe that we live in. The real world doesn't work like that. And unfortunately, you can embrace the AI revolution and then you're going to be 10 times richer, or you can pretend it's not happening and then you will be left in the dust. And because he's the head of this company, he's basically only interested in making the winners win. So I kind of get his point, but it was never said so directly.
Very hard to explain to a society. How do you build partnerships on the defense side with allies where you share the IP we've built and they can build on top of it, which we're doing. So we're giving to allies or selling to allies infrastructure that will allow them to use AI that they built. So there are ways to share in the proceeds and in the actual benefits, but I don't think the idea that everyone wins is it all going to work, and I'm definitely not part of that view.
What does the commercial space look like for you, and what are you taking from the work that you have done, which has to date been majority government-led, into the commercial domain? I just want this audience to get a real sense of where you see the opportunities.
It was historically commercial until about 2 years ago, and now like certainly if you do customer numbers, it's primarily commercially led in the U.S. And what I'm learning is, you can, like, there's just a lot of products out there that are, it's poetry. Like, you just get poetry. So, and people doing all sorts of PowerPoints. But if you show up to customers, I go all over America and I say, take all your best products, everything you've done, any vendor, and then compare it to what you can do in Palantir in 10 hours. And you're basically comparing, it's unfair because you're comparing a poetry on, I want to task a satellite to tell me when weather conditions are going to affect my agricultural product. I want to task my enterprise to tell me when churn is likely to happen under these contexts. I want to be able to have a right function in this part of my enterprise. I'm interested in margins, or in the hospital context, I want to more efficiently allocate and more justly allocate beds. I want to make sure that doesn't happen on class, race, background. I want to get nurses and doctors involved, and then the margins are completely different. You can do this within weeks. And so then the use case I'm most excited about in commercial is you can take culturally specific manufacturing. So we power a battery company from Japan in America. So you can build the factory like it was built in Japan. You can teach workers and manage those workers and have them manage production as if they were Japanese workers, but with a cultural identity, in this case American, could be Emirati. So de facto, you can now build things that could only be built in one culture in another culture. And so this has incredible, almost incomprehensible impact on cultures, because now it's like, well, we could only build ships in the past in this one culture. Yeah, but now you can build them in Kansas City. And you can build them with workers who are not as technical. And you can do this. So that alone changes the GDP of cultures. It changes the ability of cultures to invest and do things that were not possible in the past.
There is some...
So by the way, this Japanese factory that he's talking about, I'm 100% certain that it's the Tesla factory. So we already know that they're working together, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. And this section I wanted to show because he is as cocky as ever. And he talks about how their products are so superior that he's asking people to come in, take the biggest problems, take your people, and whatever you have done, we will do it in 10 hours. And I really like how he's so cocky, and he's got the numbers, people. We've been with him for many, many, many quarters and years, and he's got the numbers to be able to be cocky, and I really, really love it. So now we go to the next part, which is also something that he has never said before. It's going to be a bit philosophical, but hey, it's Karp.
Metaphors for fighting back against that.
You are a warrior for Western values, for democracy. Democracy around the world is under attack. I mean, we face what are ostensibly
the primary thing that is eviscerating democracy. It's always produced as I'm not against fighting fake things. You have to fix actual problems. Democracy is not an excuse for having nothing that works.
So by the way, a little bit of context. So she wanted to bring up that, how do you view misinformation? So he's basically saying that he's not against handling misinformation, but that's not an excuse for, the reason why people are receptive to misinformation is because none of the things around them work. And it's going to be very interesting.
If it does not work, nobody is going to buy into it. And one of the most important things we have to push back on is, it can't work because we have these 5 things that don't work. Nobody has time for that. We are in very dangerous times. Every part of your society actually has to work. How do you define work? I put in $1, I get more than $1 out. That's working. It's not working, and the people who purvey that massively underestimate the intelligence of the people they're talking to. People have no time for that. And if you're spending time on this, it's, we invest lots and nothing happened, and we invest more and nothing happened. It's not the input, it's the output.
I love so much what he's saying here. And I think Elon Musk should take notes, because I think that this is a highly political speech, sort of. But it doesn't raise any red flags for anyone because he says it in such a delicate way. But think about it. What he is saying is when you hire, what is it in the US? Like, let's say that when you spend 200 million on education and then the standard in the schools drop. It's like, who cares how much you're spending? It's only the output that matters. So if you spend, like you need to, like Palantir is able to help you get to a point where you are spending $1 and you have more than $1 result coming out. And currently, what do you have in the US? It's not just the US, and I don't want to make this political. In many, many countries, you have similar things that you spend on, healthcare, and the people become more unhealthy. You spend on education, and then the standards drop. You spend on infrastructure, and you build, highway, high-speed rail, and it costs more than, like this example in California. So it's very interesting that Palantir is able to help with all these things.
It's like we need a relentless focus on that across the world. And that is the only thing that will stabilize a society. And everything else just malfunctions, misfunctions, corrodes your society, and produces the worst people ever, because only the people who use that to advance themselves understand it doesn't work and they understand they can manipulate people like that. It has to be fought against at every element. And
to that point, Alex, I just want to close with this, because I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. There are growing concerns about AI's role in the sort of disruption that we see around the world at present. False and misleading information fueled by AI was top of the global risks report released at Davos this year. Do you share these concerns? It was at the top of a lot of people's
top
list.
of a list of. I compare this conference to that conference. I don't want to get. It's just yes. Of course, it's a problem, but the primary problem is not disinformation, which I'm against and I would help fight. But the primary problem is that the people listen to it because primary functions of their government aren't working, and they're asking themselves, why doesn't it work? And so you have to fix those underlying functions. Pretending that is the primary risk to democracy is totally a backfire move. Of course it's a risk. Of course it should be dealt with. Of course security services should fight this. Foreign influence into a country is illegal, unethical, and should be fought. And I would be happy to help out fighting that. But the primary risk to a society is not fake information. It's a society that's willing to believe the fake information because they're wondering, why doesn't my school work? Why doesn't my border work? Why have I been taught things in school that don't work? Why do I know nothing about software? Why am I being told that poetry will pay my bills when in fact it's not even good poetry? It's like that is the primary risk to a society. And all this other stuff is just a way of saying, I cannot deal with the primary problems. I can deal with the secondary problems, and it won't work.
So yeah, I don't know if you see the same thing that I see, like people thinking, why doesn't my border work? Why do I get taught poetry in school, which could be maybe like gender studies, or whatever, and then you can't pay your bills. And the border question, we all understand what he's referring to. And then basically all these failures, why is the US continuously going in debt and, printing money? It's the same question. And I guess he doesn't make it political. He doesn't say it's one party or the other doing it. He's saying like, these are the problems and this is what you need to solve. But it's just a fantastically delicate way of giving describing the problem that doesn't make any side of the aisle upset. At least that's how I understand it. Let me know in the comments if you think the same thing. So, very interesting video. Let me know if you liked it. These were the highlights. The rest is what he says all the time. So our CEO is still amazing. He's still very confident. And you heard it here. 10 to 100 times richer if you use this thing. So I've only got a 2x so far on Palantir. Looking forward to my 10 to 100x. So see you guys in the next video. Ciao, ciao.